Hey everyone, I'm Mrs. Trendell. I am a prevention educator here at SCAZA. Some of you may know me, but I might be new to some of you. And whether you are listening from your classroom right now or from home, I'm going to be presenting you with 8 lessons from our Too Good for Drug program. I'm going to be teaching it right here from my office. And because I'm here at the office all by myself, I'm going to teach the rest of the lessons with my mask off. In these 8 lessons, we will be learning important skills that will teach you to stay happy, healthy, and confident. So in today's lesson, our first high school lesson, we are going to be talking about setting goals. So let's start by thinking about graduation day. Okay, imagine you're at the graduation ceremony right now. You're wearing your cap and gown, and pomp and circumstance is playing in the background. Your friends and relatives are in the audience clapping and cheering for you. Think about how you would feel on your graduation day. I know on my graduation day I felt proud and happy, excited and nervous, right? So the principal starts calling the names of the graduating seniors. As you watch them cross the stage to receive their diplomas, you start thinking about a few of your classmates. First, there is William. William is at the head of the class. He wants to be a successful lawyer. During his junior year, William named his goal by saying, "I will get into a good college with a pre-law program by the spring of next year." Throughout high school, he earned leadership and basketball awards. In fact, most of the best colleges in the country have offered him scholarships. Your class voted him most likely to succeed. Now, Tina crosses the stage. She's graduating, but just barely. Back in middle school, you thought Tina would set the world on fire, but in high school, she just fizzled out. In middle school, she was a straight A student and a star volleyball player. In high school, she didn't participate in any activities and just scraped by with C's and D's. She didn't even know if she would graduate until last week. Tina had so much potential, but she didn't develop any of her skills or talents. Looking at the other graduates, you can't help but think about Brian. He should have been here today. I want you now to think about what could have happened in the lives of William, Tina, and Brian during the past 4 years. What did they do or not do to lead them to where they were on graduation day? Okay, so think about William. What are some things that William did or did not do during high school that led him to where he is today on graduation day? So if you think about William set goals. Remember, his goal was to get into a college, into a pre-law program by the spring of next year. He took challenging classes. He managed his time well. He stayed focused. He studied hard. He participated in activities. And most likely he avoided drugs and gangs and other sources where he could have gotten off the right track and went down a bad road. And he avoided partying. Okay, how about Tina? So Tina most likely, during these last four years, she most likely wasted time. She didn't study. She might have used drugs, hung out with the wrong crowd. She could have gotten pregnant. She could have had family problems. She most likely lost focus, because remember, in middle school, she had lots going for her. And she could have prioritized friends over school. Okay, so those might have been some things that Tina might have done during these last 4 years. So let's look at Brian. Remember, Brian was not there on graduation day. So what are some possible things that could have happened to him during the last 4 years? Maybe Brian dropped out of school. Maybe he moved away. He could have started using drugs. He might have had to work to help with money at home. He could have died of a drug overdose. He could have gotten arrested and put in jail. He could have joined a gang, or he could have just not cared. So let me tell you what happened to these three. Okay, so I'm going to read you what actually happened to them. So William and Tina started dating when they were freshmen and eventually became high school sweethearts. However, during his junior year, William's phone started to ring. Coaches from colleges all over the country were calling him saying, "Son, you're going to be the next great thing to happen to college basketball." William saw his future. A basketball scholarship would get him into a good school with a pre-law program. He wanted to be a lawyer, and he knew he would need help paying for school. He spent most of his time studying and playing basketball to make sure he reached his goal. Tina felt left out of his life, so she broke up with him. The breakup devastated her. Tina withdrew from everything she cared about: school, her friends, and her family. Eventually, she decided it was time to move on. She started hanging out with the bad boy of the school, Brian. Brian didn't care much about school or much of anything else. He partied most weekends and was willing to do anything to escape reality. By the end of his junior year, he stopped going to class and eventually dropped out of school altogether. No one has seen or heard from him since. Tina barely graduated because she let Brian distract her from her goals. She lost track of what she really wanted in life. William kept studying and kept practicing. He is graduating today with a full basketball scholarship to a university. What message do you take from each person in this story? Exactly. You decide what you do with your life. No one else can or should make those decisions for you. You have to decide what you want and choose the path that will get you there. How many of you have been asked what you want to do with your life after high school? How many of you know the answer to that question? How many of you are not sure? Some of you do and some of you don't know, and that's okay. So how do we find our focus? Today we're going to learn how to set reachable goals. What do I mean by a reachable goal? A reachable goal is one that has been set with a person's interests, commitments, and abilities in mind. Here is our goal-setting poster. These 6 steps will help you set and reach your goals. It's easier to work for things when you know what you are working toward and when you have a plan to get there. What is the first step to setting a reachable goal? Step number 1 is name it. Think about the things you like to do. What are your interests and talents? What are you good at doing? Okay, with your interests and talents in mind, think about what you would like to accomplish this year. Then name your goal by writing it on a piece of paper. Okay, it could be a scrap piece of paper for now. You could always transfer it. Maybe you want to improve your grades by the end of the year by maybe going from a B to an A average. Maybe you want to set a record in sports or beat one of your personal records. Maybe you just want to improve, okay, but be specific. Maybe you want to try out for a school play that's in the springtime. Okay, so I want you to think about that for a little bit and write it down. Sorry. Excellent. Now that you have written down your goal, let's confirm that it is reachable. Remember, reachable. It's something that you are interested in and want to obtain. Okay. A reachable goal must meet these 4 criteria. Look at the 4 goal naming criteria on the top of the poster. Okay, so under step number 1, name it. After we review this criteria, you may need to revise your goal you named to make it reachable. So we'll see, we'll go back and look. Okay, what is the first criterion? The first criterion on top of this poster is personal. The goal you name must be personal. When the goal you set is your goal, you will work hard to reach it because it matters to you. So it must be important to you. Okay, it's not anybody else's goal. It's not your friend's goal. It needs to be your goal. Okay, what is the second criterion? The second criterion is that the goal must be possible. Okay, you need to have the ability and the resources to reach that goal. Okay, it must be a possible goal to achieve. Thirdly, your goal must be positive. Okay, you state your goal as a positive action rather than saying, for example, I won't eat junk food for the next 2 weeks. Phrase it instead as I will eat healthy foods for the next 2 weeks. You can even get a little more specific and say which healthy foods you're going to eat. Like I will eat 3 vegetables and 3 fruits a day for the next 2 weeks. Okay. And lastly, the fourth criterion is that your goal must be specific. Okay, the goal you set must be something particular or measurable, so you know when you have successfully completed it. Okay, so just for example, the goal that we just set about healthy foods, I said specifically what healthy foods I was going to eat, and then I set a time period for the next 2 weeks. Okay, I will eat 3 fruits and vegetables each for the next 2 weeks. Okay. So now, if necessary, now that we've gone over the 4 criterion in naming your goal, I want you to take a moment in case you need to revise your goal. Okay, so make sure the goal you named is personal. Make sure it's possible. Make sure it's positive. You have positive action words in your statement, and make sure it's specific. Okay, now that you've named your goal, there are a few more steps you will need to take to reach it. The second step is to picture yourself reaching your goal. Take a minute to imagine exactly what success looks like. If your goal is to graduate, think about what it would feel like to cross the stage and receive your diploma. A clear picture of what you are working towards in your mind will motivate you to keep working towards your goal. The third step is say I can. What you say to yourself about your progress will either help you or hold you back. Be your own cheerleader and keep your self-talk positive, okay? Saying I can statements. Once you've named your goal and you're ready to get started, you have to think how to do it. So that's the fourth step. Think how to do it. What action steps will you need to take to accomplish your goal? Think of 3 or 4 action steps you will need to reach your goal. Write the steps underneath your goal that you have written down. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple minutes to complete your action steps. Okay, so 3 to 4. So it's kind of like your plan of how you're going to reach that goal. So say you want to improve your grade from a B to a C. Some steps that you might take would be to make sure you're doing all your homework, maybe going in to see your teachers for extra help, maybe studying with friends. Okay, so those could be some of your action plans. Okay, and then once you have your steps and your action plans, that you're going to follow the 5th step in reaching your goal, which is go for it. You start taking those action steps you listed, and when you've reached your goal, you're going to celebrate your success, which is step 6. So look at what you've done and what you've accomplished and feel that feeling of accomplishment, and that will help you in the next time you set out to achieve a goal. Reaching goals isn't always easy. In life, we face obstacles that could prevent us from staying focused on our goals. Since we can't predict or prevent obstacles, we have to be prepared to overcome them when they arise. We might face external obstacles, so obstacles that are brought on by other people or events that we cannot control. The trick is not to give up on our goal or on ourselves. Imagine you set a goal to get a part-time job, but as you leave for the interview, you find your car has a flat tire. What would you do? Hopefully you wouldn't just give up and not go to the interview. Hopefully you could do something like ask your mom or dad for a ride or borrow one of their cars. Maybe fix the flat. Maybe call a friend for a ride or a car service like Uber. I don't know if we have Uber around here. Or call to reschedule the interview. Okay? A flat tire doesn't mean you have to surrender your goal. You just need to find another way to get to the interview. Sometimes we might encounter internal obstacles. So these are the obstacles we face that only we can control. Okay, an obstacle like poor time management, can keep you from reaching your goals. Learning to anticipate these obstacles will help you avoid them or be ready to overcome them in the future. In this video, you will learn some ways of overcoming some of these difficulties. So sit back and relax and watch.
Imagine walking along a road and a huge rock blocks your way. You can't go around it and it's too big to climb over. You're going to have to find another way. Ryan Holiday, in his book, The Obstacle is the Way, tells us that obstacles aren't actually the problem. It's our belief that the path won't have any obstacles that's incorrect. The rock was always going to be there. Obstacles are just part of the journey. In life, we're going to come across obstacles, and here are 3 lessons to help us overcome them. Lesson 1 is don't waste time on useless reactions. Things happen to us all the time. We have no control over it, but what we do have control over is how we perceive and how we react to the situation. Thomas Edison had a bunch of buildings where his labs were, and one day a huge forest fire broke out and started to burn a ton of them. As the burnings lit up in different colors, Edison's reaction was pretty surprising. Instead of running around panicking, he told everyone, "Get your kids here. We will never see another fire like this." Things happen to us all the time, and we can either cry about it or just accept it. Whatever we do, it's not going to change whatever's already happened. Edison knew that and didn't waste any time mourning his loss. Instead, he spent the next few months working harder than he ever had, rebuilding his buildings that were burnt down. Lesson number 2, think progress, not perfection. Sometimes we get so involved in passing the obstacle that we forget what we're actually aiming for. If you've seen some of my older videos, you might recall that I used to work at a restaurant. When I first got that job, I lived pretty far away, and it wouldn't make much sense to take public transit because it would take too long. So I decided I had to buy a car. I started looking at different cars and test drove a few. Some had really cool features like heated seats, power windows, and CD changers, and I wanted a sporty looking car, preferably red with power windows and a moonroof. I got so caught up in everything that I forgot the actual reason I was buying the car in the first place. It wasn't supposed to be so that I could win street races, impress girls, or so my friends and I could stick our arms out on the roof. It was so that I didn't have to take public transit to work. A lot of the times we get caught up in all of this stuff that we forget our actual goal. Take time to reassess what your goals are. And remember, it doesn't matter if the cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice. While it might be nice to smash every piece of the rock that's in our way, we only really need to clear enough of it so we can pass through and head on to the next obstacle. And lastly, life is not a race. It's a marathon. There will always be obstacles. I've had an extreme fascination for snakes as a kid. My mom would never let me have a pet snake though, and being 6 years old, I didn't really have much of a say into the matter either. One day, my parents bought me a fish tank and said that I could have fish instead. They were gonna bring me to a pet store for me to pick out a fish, but I didn't want one. I wanted a snake. So the fish tank was basically empty for a long time. This one day, I went to a grocery store with my parents and grandparents, and I saw that they were selling eels. I instantly wanted one because they looked just like a snake. I could easily raise one too, since I already have a fish tank. I cried and cried until my grandmother bought me one. Long story short, the eel didn't even last the week. It was the most traumatic incident I've ever experienced. I was devastated. After that, I thought, okay, if I can handle this, I can handle anything in life. And that wasn't the case. Over the years, I've gone through more tragic events, breakups, loss of family members, but overcoming those losses made me a stronger person. There will always be obstacles. Behind mountains are more mountains. And whenever you pass obstacles, life will throw more at you because it knows that you can take it. It will never get any easier, but you will grow more as a person every time you pass one. To recap, don't waste time on useless reactions. Things will happen to us, and we can either cry about it or we can continue on with our lives. Think progress, not perfection. Remember your end goal and focus on that as opposed to distractions along the way. And lastly, remember that life will continue to throw challenges at you. Solving an obstacle will only bring about more obstacles. Keep that in mind. Keep a steady head. It's not a bad thing. Life is not a race, it's a marathon. And the obstacle is the way. I hope you gained a few insights on life. But most importantly, I hope you enjoyed this video.
I think
If you
that's
want to
coming,
subscribe, you can do it by clicking here. Because every week my videos get better. So if you enjoyed this video, you will enjoy next week's even more. I'll see you then.
When you're prepared to handle these obstacles that you might face, you are more likely to be successful in reaching your goals. In the next lesson, we will be talking more about making responsible decisions to keep us on track to reaching your goals. So at the end of each lesson, I will present this slide. The slide has our email, a special email that we set up for you students that have any questions or comments that you would like to add. The email is skazaprevention@gmail.com. This is a confidential email, so your questions will be answered by myself and not shared with anyone else. And we'd love to hear from you. Because we can't be face-to-face and get that interaction, we thought it was a good way that that we could still hear what you were thinking and the questions that you might have. All right, well, thank you for your time, and I will see you next time.